It's a good vibe. It's a good vibe right here on Bogart Men Radio. Dada, I'm in the building. From hip hop to JamRock, it is going down. We will give you the very best of reggae music from Mzansi to the Caribbean and all the way back again. But as we always do on the show, we kick things off, with an interview or out of you. And today, well, guess what? We're doing an interview, and I have somebody very special in the building. Somebody so special, especially to the digital sphere. When you talk about blogging, you talk about fashion, you're talking about the big bad wolf. How you doing, Ricky?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh man, it's such a pleasure to have you, and an honor to have you on Bogart Men, especially where we always saying style is rhythm. Blogger, fashion blogger.
I like that.
I think
style
it connects.
is rhythm.
All right,
it
100%.
really is. Yeah.
But before we get into all of that, I want to start. Where did your love for fashion begin?
Oh, you know what? It's actually in my blood. My grandfather had a boutique in Joburg back in the day, suits and all of that. So my parents are in the interior design world. We've always loved something, the aesthetic stuff. And in about grade 10, I decided, okay, I need to start to find my voice, be a little bit different. And yeah, fashion was just natural.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And especially when you're talking about coming from tailor-made suits, that's men's fashion that ties in so nicely with Bogart Men. And I know off air you were saying, look, men's fashion has not really been a world that you've dabbled in so much. Could I ask why?
Because I only do what I want to do.
that's a
if
good enough
I
answer.
can't wear it, I'm like, oh, well, then I'm not that interested.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have styled men. I've done men's shoots. And, Boys of Soweto, the brand, Suits by Bob, unbelievable suits and unbelievable male fashion. But it's also become quite unisex. I will also say at SA Fashion Weeks and stuff, the menswear designers are some of the best.
Nice.
They kind of blow the women's wear designers out the water.
Ooh, let's go.
I know. And I will also say this, South African men, I think, are some of the most stylish men in the world.
Nice.
Because there is this meeting of culture, time, and fashion.
Yeah.
That I don't think anywhere has hit it quite like ours.
That's
our guys.
so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I never thought about that before, but that is quite a lot of elements that you see mixed in. And I guess with so many of the different cultures, it makes it even much more interesting because it could be anything.
But that's exactly it. And it doesn't feel novel. It feels really original and real. I mean, when I just, on a random Saturday, let's say you go to Rosebank or 44 Stanley.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the originality also comes from maybe not having that much money.
Yeah.
That's where real fashion comes in.
True.
I mean, years ago, I did a how much does your outfit cost at SA Fashion Week. And the people that had the cheapest outfits were always the most stylish because they had to work with what they got. They had to. You can't just walk into Christian Dior head to toe and buy a beautiful look that everyone will look great in.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that South Africans can do really well.
That's beautiful. And does that tie into the female fashion aesthetic? And is that what you look for when you look at female fashion?
Oh God, the female aesthetic for me, there is none anymore.
Okay.
Everything goes, anything goes, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Trends are a little too quick right now. So I always say, steer clear of trends. There's really no such thing as a trend anymore.
True.
Because the best and most stylish people dress how they want to dress.
100%.
Of course, you look online, and if you're on TikTok, there will be like that quiet luxury look or that maximalist or, all the different things. But those go out quite quickly. And the people that tend to stay in vogue are the ones that just dress how they want, their own aesthetic. There's no name put to it. And also having an aesthetic, it's so tough because I know, for one, I like what I like, but every day I really feel different.
Yeah, of course.
Every day I want to wear something different. I could go for 2 months of where I dress very masculine.
Okay, I feel you.
Yeah.
No, and that's the main thing about fashion is to reflect your feelings, your character, who you are in your dress. So I see that changing on a daily basis for everyone.
Exactly. It's a complete extension of your identity. And
100%.
it is, I've seen people walk up to a table, and if they're not dressed well, I've seen how people interact with them. But if they are stylish, I see people open up.
True.
And it's not a great thing. We shouldn't be so materialistic, but fashion does open doors. Also, like when I wear a nice outfit, the amount of conversations I have
Yeah.
with random people, with people behind the till, with waiters, waitresses, commenting on my outfits, talking about it, it really can bring people together in the weirdest, most materialistic way.
That's awesome. And how did you find the niche market of getting into the blogging sphere, bringing fashion into the blogging sphere? And how is that, how have you found the response being within the South African market in general?
So I'm an actress. I was an actress,
Okay.
and I studied film at Wits.
Yeah.
And I was in a great film called Necktie Youth by Sib Shongwela Men. I did really, really well all over the world.
Nice.
But, Hollywood didn't come knocking, and I had a lot of time on my hands. So I had the privilege to go and intern at Sunday Times Fashion Weekly and then Marie Claire. And Marie Claire had an online platform.
Yeah.
And this was 2015, 2016. So it was still kind of new. And they allowed the interns to write the weekly
Awesome.
blogs. And I thought to myself, oh gosh, I can actually do this.
Nice.
This is something I can do, I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I left the internship early. Firstly, they don't pay. And I left it early to start my own blog because I wanted to have my own voice.
Yeah.
But the reception of me being this, let's call a spade, this white privileged girl, you have to break down a lot of barriers in a lot of ways.
I see.
But on a whole, I've always had a great time.
That's beautiful. And I love the digitization of all things media because it's really opened South Africa up to the global market. It's really put us on an equal pedestal with a lot of places, and I would say with fashion, right?
Look at who this country has birthed. Trevor Sturman, the McKelly brothers,
Come on.
Tebe Magugu, Richmond Nisi.
Yeah.
I mean, the list really can go on and on. But there's always been something interesting about South Africa.
True.
Besides even Nelson Mandela, who is one of the greatest leaders probably of all time. There is something very special about this tiny little country at the tip of Africa.
Of course.
But I think that you can also speak about that coming from our history. With such a violent, oppressive history, a lot of passion goes into things.
Of course.
I think people find beauty in a lot of the small things, and I think that's how things grow. And also
100%.
community. We're not an individualistic nation like America. We believe in Ubuntu, and I think that's also what will keep us safe in years to come.
Of course.
We see each other, we learn from each other, we grow together. And I think that helps people's aesthetic as well.
I love that. And we are quite a together nation. We fight with each other on Twitter, but don't you dare attack us because we defend each other.
Have you seen people what South Africans do to Americans who attack us?
I've seen it.
I follow this woman that's made literally thousands of followers just because she made one joke about South Africans.
Yeah.
And now the whole joke is South Africans just go and roast her.
100%.
She's got 100,000 South African followers now.
That's amazing. And I love that about us. We're together when it matters. And I love also what you spoke about, that because of our history, you find that in the arts, a lot of our expression came out into the arts. Our struggle fights came out into the arts, and you could see it in the fashion, in the music. You could feel it.
As a previously oppressed society, like all previously oppressed societies, we go for 2 decades where all our art is based in that pain because that's how you can heal.
Yeah.
Art is healing.
100%.
But then what I've seen, I think, since maybe about 2017, 18, is that we're now moving to the joy. I think there's been quite a lot of joy, especially in film and fashion. Of course, there's a lot of heartbreak, but there's been some beautiful, joyful, in the joyful era, if you want to speak about Kamala Harris and her terms right now.
100%. I mean, they could say the golden age. We have people winning so many Grammys. We have Oscars coming home. We have gold medals in Olympics. We have World Cups coming with the Springboks. Golden era, definitely. I can agree with that.
I love this country, though. I just started reading this book about Chris Hani's death and the 10 days afterwards. I have not been able to put it down. What we have come through as a nation. And I wish people felt that way because, I don't know, in my community, people are just immigrating like you couldn't believe.
Yeah.
And that's a big brain drain on our nation.
True.
It's beautiful to see cool people who are staying, especially in Joburg, because also everyone's going to the Western Cape.
True.
There's something so special about Joburg. It's so historic. It's so cultural. It's so fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get inspired. I have to remind myself it's a hard city to love,
Yeah.
but I adore it.
I love Joburg. You know, when I think about it, I'll be like, okay, look, the Western Cape, that could be, or Cape Town specifically. That's the Hollywood of South Africa. Okay, fine, no problem. But this is definitely the New York City. This is where business is done. It has such a beautiful pace for everything that I'm
And
trying to do, and
There's so
ambition.
much. Don't you find there's
Yeah.
so? I always think of like genres. There's so many subgenres of humans here.
100%.
There's so many things you can get involved in. I find other cities in South Africa quite small, and because they are quite small naturally.
True.
So, Joburg, that you can find something and someone for everything.
Very true, and it's vibrant, it's alive. So I love Joburg to my core. And then, you know, you were speaking about Chris Hani, and in my mind, I started having a bit of questions about the youth because, you know, as they say in South Africa, especially if you look historically, a lot of change and uprising always begins with the youth. And is it so when you look at fashion? Are the youth taking the lead with it? And what are happening? Because I've seen a lot of fashion schools popping up. Are these kids finding a place for themselves within the sphere of fashion? What's happening?
So absolutely, everything does come from the youth. But what's even more interesting is within this decade, you know, everything used to be top down, trickle down theory.
Yeah.
The big brands used to tell us what's stylish. We would have to wait for the cheaper brands to catch on.
True.
Now it's actually the opposite. They are looking to the street to see what are the young people wearing.
Okay.
And now, I mean, Gucci is copying, you know, kids on the streets.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think fashion and the youth, I think to know that there's more schools popping up is fantastic. There's always space for more designers.
Beautiful.
But then we have to speak about the effects that places like Temu and Shein are having on these designers. And that's where I'm very passionate about, you know, conscious fashion. But it's hard. We can speak about conscious fashion in maybe a westernized, wealthy country. I cannot judge people for going to buy from Shein or Temu because
course.
I can't go afford a Gucci jacket.
Yeah.
I can't, even slow fashion brands, local, which I really love, they're expensive and you can't wear the same piece 100 times.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough conversation to have with the youth and with young designers who want to make it, but then they have this influx of brands from like Shein and Temu.
100%, and you're right. It's such a interesting conversation, but in reality, it's a difficult aspect to tackle because I mean you're looking at people with factories that can create things for the most bottom dollar price of things. So for a small enterprise to compete against something so large, it becomes very difficult, and that leads me to the question of the usage of local fashion. And you were speaking about, you know, you're coming from the television industry. That's where you began, and is local fashion being utilized on these platforms becomes the question, because we have to try our best to push our local brands and give them exposure.
So this is a tough one because like in any industry, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And what we also tend to do as South Africans is celebrate each other when we've reached a certain point.
True.
We're not really going, let me look for the next big thing. We're going, oh, you are the next big thing. We're going to celebrate you now.
I see it.
And I think we need more platforms, but they are. I'm not denying that. But when it comes to like TV and even reality TV shows, that we could probably have such great ones in South Africa, they tend to be monopolized by well-known names and faces.
True. Very true. It's a crazy thing, and like you said, it's a phenomenon within all industries. Who you know will take you a lot farther than what you know, and it's a shame because we could have a much stronger industry if we were utilizing people on their strengths. So I feel what you're saying, and it's something that hits me too. But I always remind people as well that as South Africa, we're a very young democracy, 30 years young, in fact. And so in that time, the strides that we've made, incredible. So
I read somewhere and they said, if you're going to personify the 30 years, look at a 30-year-old person in the modern world. They are pretty lost. They struggle. They have joy. And I think that's a nice way to look at South Africa, like a 30-year-old person.
100%.
And yeah, we've gotten through a lot. It's hard because fashion in South Africa, it's somewhat niche. It is. I think there can be a lot of great things done and charity works done through it. I know back in the day, Edgar's had a great charity, I'm not sure if it's still going, where women who escaped domestic violence, who had no money and didn't know how to, like a lot of them stay with their violent partners because they don't have an escape. Edgar's set up this foundation to help teach all these women how to sew and make clothes
Wow.
so they can make a living.
That's
and
beautiful.
I think there's a lot of things that can be done like that.
100%. And I'm glad you're speaking about that, especially in Women's Month. That's a lot of the works that need to be done. I mean, I always speak to young artists and I say, look, we look at these communities and we ask communities, support us, help us to build our career. But how many times do we turn around and help these communities to build themselves? And I think the same can be saying when you're looking at fashion. We want people to buy our products and wear our clothing, but how are you giving back to the society? I love what you're saying. That's so powerful and important.
Oh, and I think in South Africa, I always think if I was in a westernized, first world westernized nation, things are quite a lot easier because things run better in those countries.
Yeah.
So things like smaller community there would be more help for them because the bigger problems have kind of been taken care of. We need our government to stand up. Like, really, come on.
Assistance, yeah.
We need assistance in the arts. We cannot have a world or a country without arts. You look in England, and some of the universities are taking away art degrees now because there's...
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that we thinking that's even a thought process now. Our government needs to... But even SA Fashion Week, I love SA Fashion Week. I've always been a huge fan of theirs and a huge supporter of theirs. I think they could be doing more.
Of course.
I just think all these brands could be doing a lot more.
100%.
And involving a lot more communities. It doesn't also always have to be outreach. I'm not saying it shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
there's a lot
of things that can be done.
100%. I see you, and it's the same fight we're having. It's interesting to see that the struggles are mirrored, just because of our common umbrella of art. It's like the problems are basically the same: music,
Absolutely.
fashion, television, same hustle.
But it interests me because music is unbelievable in South Africa.
Yeah.
I don't know that side of the world, but something I've noticed over the years is we have top tier music, we have top tier producers, singers, all of that. But then it comes to the film and TV, and I feel like we don't have our own voice. We just copy and paste everything America does. We have so many stories. They don't all have to be struggle stories, but we have so many funny, brilliant stories to tell in such a unique way, and we're still not doing it.
It's very true.
Think about what, like, on Netflix. So I'm glad to see more and more local stuff put onto Netflix.
Yeah.
But I'm like, this looks like a B-grade American series now.
I always have this thought, when I was studying at Academy of Sound Engineering in Auckland Park, down the road was the school for the television and film students after. And those kids, we were always jealous because we were like, man, we've got to struggle and write these exams, and your exam is shooting a movie. You don't have exams. So the thought would always go back to, how many stories are they sitting on in just a place like after? How many great movies that could just be brushed up a little bit?
Oh, I've got a
improved?
great story. Like, I have such a fun story to tell.
100%.
It's like completely simple, but although the great cities in the world have like a New York, I love you, Paris, je t'aime, all of that.
Yeah.
I want to do a Joburg, I love you.
Wow.
It's in simple, done in one day, like takes place in one day. There are so many funny stereotypes as well in South Africa, not the dangerous ones, but like really funny things that you can poke fun at with people.
True.
And something about Joburg is we all interact here. We are not a segregated society like a lot of our cities in the country are still.
Yeah.
We really mingle here, and I love that. And I also think that speaks back to inspiration of fashion and aesthetic.
100%. Joburg, the melting pot, I always say. And one of my friends, his most common saying is that nobody comes from Joburg. We all come from somewhere outside trying to make it in Joburg, but no one comes from Joburg. And I love that. That means that, we're trying to build something here.
It feels so good to speak about South Africa after this book I'm reading, just because, it's devastating then to see that we've come out this other side.
Yeah.
And also to be speaking to someone that loves Joburg.
Don't
Don't you find it few and far between lately?
I do, and you know what? I blame the press a lot. I won't lie.
Too. Why are we so bad with our PR? I've seen other cities go through really bad things, and it's not online. Like Joburg, we are just ripped apart, and we rip ourselves apart. I think we need to shut up.
Exactly.
Keep your mouth shut. Yeah, everyone's got it hard.
Right.
Just like when it's a real... Yeah.
But we can build and we can improve. I mean, you know, I learned this when I got to New York City, because when I got off the plane, the first thing I saw was just miles and miles of American flags. And when you ask people where they're from, they'll be like, nah, I'm from New York, I'm Rochester or Brooklyn. Or nobody is like, in South Africa, we're very hesitant to represent ourselves in such a beautiful light. And the other thing I realized is that New York is just a big version of CBD Joburg. So, I mean, you know, it's not really that impressive. It's the same. It's really the same.
Especially now after COVID, all those big cities.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
we
sure.
have the potential, and sometimes it's just their media has painted them so positively. When people say New York, you have this romanticized vision of the place. But why can't we have the same vision for Joburg?
I know.
for
Do you know
Cape
what's
Town?
for me? The number one issue is crime.
Yeah.
If we can just get crime, you wouldn't. I read this great book by Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point.
Yes.
And you know, New York in the 70s and 80s famously was one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
Definitely.
Every documentary you ever watch that takes place back then speaks about how walking from the subway to your apartment, you took your life in your own hands. That sounds like Joburg.
Yeah.
Joburg CBD. But a bunch of things started to happen within the government that it tipped it over into the city everyone knows and loves today. And there's this feeling of the ministers in South Africa and in Joburg that you're just like, please read this book. Please go do these rallies. It's not having more police, which you think it would. There's this idea of the broken window theory, where you go into an area and you fix every broken window. You fix the pavements, you fix it. Crime goes down when that happens. That's a very interesting sociological phenomena.
Of course.
If you go also in the CBD, there's those streets with those big, beautiful old buildings.
Yes.
There's a lot of security out there. Also, no crime in those streets.
Wow.
Nothing.
I mean, I've even heard of the rejuvenation of Ponty City. It's one of the safer places to live now in the city center. So there's so many beautiful and positive things happening, but it gets overshadowed. It never gets spoken about.
And Josie My Josie now, it's a new movement. They're
100%.
working with a whole bunch of organizations, also fantastic. And I think that's also something that I love about South Africa that the rest of the world doesn't seem to have, is our civic duty, our civic responsibility is quite strong here.
Of course.
We really do have we need to give back whenever we can. We can't rely on our governments. And I think that's why we're like, okay, you know, it's easy to have morals when you have money. And when you have money here, I do see people do give back.
100%. And, you know, my thing is that when I look at politics and I look at the government, I'll have to say for them as well, it becomes a very difficult thing, because when you look at the terms and how short it is in between being voted in and then being voted out, by the time you've had your meetings, your ideas, and start to implement it, somebody else is moving in who has different ideas and theories, and so that gets abandoned.
That's the issue with Joburg.
100%.
We've had 6 mayors in 2 years or something.
Crazy amount.
And then even the mayor now, he comes out and he says, oh, you can't expect any change. It's not a great thing to say. No one wants to hear that.
At least he's not lying.
I
like
agree.
That. That's honest.
He can't do much.
Yeah.
But
plus, I like this new mayor because we share the same name. I'm Don Dada, he's Comrade Dada. It's like, so I can't say anything bad about it.
Okay, I get that. It's your namesake.
You know what I mean?
Come on.
I got high hopes, and this whole new cabinet that's come in, I have high hopes for all of them. Minister of Arts and Culture, Gayton McKenzie, has also come in with a lot of fire and action. So there's a lot of change, and we can only hope for the best as a nation.
I agree. After 94, well, before 94, it was the GNU, basically. It was exactly this. It was a bunch of parties working together for a better future.
Exactly.
There's going to be a lot of issues. The issue is, you know, the psychology of organizations working together.
Yes.
It can stall for years. So, you know, ANC, DA, they all come together for a meeting and then they can't agree on one thing.
Yes.
That thing will take 6 years then for it to get figured out.
100%.
That's what we've seen in Joburg a lot, because we were a coalition government. And I like the idea of a coalition government. It doesn't really work.
Yeah.
We kind of need, on a more localized level, we need one person in charge.
100%.
And just going for it, because that's the last 6 years is since when Joburg really took a turn, was with the coalitions.
Very true, very true. Look, so many ups and downs going on in our city, and so many ups and downs going on in our continent. I mean, so all we can do, as I said, is hope for the best. And I do see a lot of great things happening around this country and around this city. And so I have a lot of hope for the future, especially with the youth.
Even Drickus du Plessis. I mean, that's a huge
That's a great
win.
accomplishment.
I mean, they
Yes.
want to bring UFC, one of the, I don't know, Dana White or something.
Yeah.
He's going to bring UFC here.
They have to.
I
They
mean,
have
do you know how
to.
much money that brings us in?
But then my fear becomes, will they swallow up EFC, which is South Africa's own platform, and then we lose our own.
But then that needs to be on the EFC's responsibility
Mm.
to make sure that doesn't happen, that you don't fight against it. You try to work in partnership with them.
100%.
Because it's going to happen. You
Of
know what I mean?
course.
That's
The quality's
the thing.
there, so.
That's it. So why don't fight it, join it?
100%. And I see that's how South Africa is going to get a lot stronger and better
Yeah.
as long as we can, defend our rights and our position to make sure that us as a nation, we gain from it. Then there's no problem with working with anyone. That's what I think, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, future for you. What does the future hold? Direction? What are you thinking about? What are you up to?
So I'm a blogger, I'm an influencer.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that work. I've created a really lovely community online.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very privileged and proud. I've also got a rental fashion brand called Big Bad Batch.
Nice.
So it's just about, instead of buying another item you're going to wear once and it's going to end up in the back of your cupboard,
Yeah.
come and rent it. It's actually much cheaper. Also,
That's
the
brilliant.
pieces I have, you can't get. So that's really cool. And I'm studying social work. So
Nice.
I'm like trying, I want to be an influencer. I want to give back. I want to be a businesswoman.
Yeah.
I don't know what the future holds. I never think that far. It causes too much anxiety. But I'm having fun.
And that's the main thing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's all that really matters.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And family, just speaking a little bit on family. I mean, we were speaking a little off air, and you were saying my husband, he dresses well, but he's not really the type of guy to go and buy pieces.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, do you style him? Does he style himself?
Okay.
How does it work?
This is a big thing. So my husband, I love him, God. He loves his clothes. He likes to dress nicely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can turn into a fight if I go, please don't wear those shoes.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's like, do you know, I'm not saying, do you know who I am? But I'm like, I'm in fashion. I'm telling you, the sneakers are better than the boots.
Of course.
But sometimes he just refuses to listen. So I don't understand that with men.
I know. I
You
know.
know
I'm
what I
the same.
mean?
Yeah.
Like, why are you going again? I promise you, I'm not. I want you to look the best you possible.
I think it gets down to that thing of, but I like these boots. You know?
He's
As-
obsessed with
yeah,
these boots,
Yeah.
and I'm like, please toss them away, please. They look like they walked out of 2017. Oh, I love it. Oh,
That's
shit.
beautiful. That's beautiful. I want to see them because I want to pair those type. But they sound
They
comfy.
actually not bad, but no, they G-Star. G-Star's a great brand. He's a G-Star.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
That's beautiful right there. And your brother, you were saying that you're quite similar, especially when it comes to the shopping experience. Very similar, stylish man as well.
Very
So I'm
stylish.
assuming this is something that runs in the blood from the grandfather to your brother to yourself.
Yeah.
Is this something you're hoping to pass on to your kids?
Oh God, yeah. If I have a child, I'm sure I'll have one kid.
Yeah.
I want them to be obsessed with fashion.
Lovely.
I would love that. I mean, I don't want them to be on TikTok necessarily, but you watch those fashionable babies on TikTok.
Yes.
It's so cute.
It is.
And also, there's at Fashion Week, sometimes kids of designers come. I just think it's so special
Nice.
to also share a love, because when you're a parent and you've got a child, the love for each other's there, but
Yes.
what the kid's enjoying is not necessarily what you're going to be enjoying.
True.
I would love to have that from a young age where my child has that same passion.
I feel you. And
I'll
I'm-
force it on them.
Yeah, that's what I
Be
did.
forced.
That's what I did. Like,
Oh, really?
just now, Man United's playing. My daughter's sitting she's got a Man United shirt on.
you're my family.
She's ready for it. You see?
yeah.
That's the vibe. That's the vibe right there. Oh, man, it has been such a blast talking to you. I've
Really
really
has.
enjoyed it. If people want to follow you, check out your blog, how do they go about getting in touch and checking it out?
Yeah, so follow me on Instagram at bigbadwolf_SA, and then my website is www.bigbadbatch.co.za.
Beautiful.
And just reach
beautiful.
out. Yeah, let's chat.
Love it, love it. And quick one, I just need five of your favorite South African artists right now. Who would it be?
Why are you doing that?
It's
That's
just,
really
I
tough.
have to.
Okay, Johnny Clegg.
Oh, that's power. You start with the classic.
Oh yeah,
I
but
love that.
I really like old school music.
Yeah.
Okay, Johnny Clegg, No, you've put me. I know a lot of South African music. Just
Yeah.
throw names around.
I mean, even just throw some friends. I mean, maybe you've got a
Oh,
Nadia
Moonchild
Nakai.
Sinelli.
Moonchild is beautiful. I love her music.
Moonchild Sinelli.
Yeah. And a
Huge fan.
style, very
Oh,
stylish.
it's so cool. And
Yeah.
she's the coolest person.
Right. Let's see, anyone in hip hop, maybe. Let's say AKA or Ricky Rick. Or
Yeah, Ricky Rick.
Ricky.
Fantastic. Also a fashion
Cotton
icon.
Eater. Come on,
No.
my brother, killing it right there. Yeah.
But oh god, you also need to understand. The only music I listen to is like Al Green and Erykah Badu. Like
I
that is
understand.
all I listen to.
Yeah.
So I'm never really listening to. Do you know what I'm obsessed with right now?
No.
What's not the Joburg Youth Choir, Black Mambata.
Oh, yeah,
Lady
yeah,
Smith,
Lady
Black
Smith,
Mamba.
Man, those are OGs.
No, but the struggle songs that they cover.
Yes.
My God, is that the
Amazing.
most powerful music I've ever heard in my life?
Yep.
But I
Yep.
feel like such a white woman sitting here saying like Johnny Clegg's my favorite, but I do. It's also nostalgic.
No, you know, if you look at it, he has this one song. I can't remember the name of the song, but that's like a theme song of South Africa. And for a very long time, that song was considered the South African sports national anthem. So they would play our national anthem, Nkosi Sikelel. They would play the competitors' anthem, and then they would play Johnny Clegg.
Are you being serious? I wonder which
100%.
one. I probably know it off by
And
heart.
now it's changed to Sis Bettina, which
Oh, but
I'm a
that's-
big fan
yeah,
of that one right
huge
there.
fan.
Zibidi, I'm right there. Loving it.
God, yeah.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for this interview. What an amazing moment in time. And we wish you the very best. We're going to be following you as Bogart Man and Bogart Man Radio.
I'll
Much
follow
love.
you guys right back. Thank you.
It's a good vibe right here on Bogart Man Radio, and we're going to keep it going. Mzansi reggae music to the world. And I'm going to give you something coming off of my new offering that'll be coming out at the end of the month, The Heart and the Mind. And I'm thinking I'm going to give you something a little bit reggae. I'm going to give you a song entitled Pezulu featuring Koketso. It's a good vibe right here on Bogart Man Radio.
This is Bogart Man Radio.